What is up everyone, my name is James and welcome to my channel, Simple Plantation. If it's your first time here, it's nice to meet you, but if you've been here before, thanks for coming back. I'm here to give you some super simple care tips on some common indoor plants, so if you want to see some more content from me, consider subscribing and bashing that bell notification so you don't miss a thing. Today's video is going to be about the Ficus Tineke. I'm going to be going through some lighting, repotting and potting mix tips, so stay tuned. The Ficus Tineke is a variety of the Ficus Elastica range, which is more commonly known as the rubber plant. It's called the rubber plant because it produces this milky white latex which can be used to produce rubber. It's found commonly in South to Southeast Asia and native to the Himalayas. If you've ever cut one open, you'll find that it produces this really disgusting oozy white sap, which can be very toxic to humans and your pets, so do be a little bit careful if you're ever pruning one. The common types of the variegated range include the ruby and the Tineke. The primary difference between the Tineke and the ruby is that the Tineke has green variegation with off-white and pink veins, whereas the ruby is a little bit more reddish and pink in colour. I honestly think this is such an underrated plant. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. You get so many different colours in the Tineke, such as red, pink, white, green. So like, depending on what you prefer, I mean, I do know that some people prefer just green leaves, but myself personally, I love variegated plants. I just want to quickly show off my Tineke in a 360 view because seriously, the variegation on this is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to spin this in the pot because the pot is extremely heavy. Basically, I've been able to promote different colors just based on my lighting conditions. But here, so if I give it a bit of a spin around, this is a little bit more green, whereas over here, it's a little bit more pinkish in colour. I actually think the aerial view is a little bit better, so I'll quickly give you some shots of that, but have a look at this. I reside in Sydney, Australia, and I first purchased this plant for $25 at Woolworths, which I thought was an absolute bargain. It was about this big, and then I bought my second Tineke from Flower Power for about $15, and it was an absolute steal. They were having this one-time special. I just couldn't believe that they were selling them for $15, and there were just so many of them, so I bought myself and also another mate one of them. A simple hack is I actually combine the two together into the one pot, which I will do another video later to give it a little bit more of a luscious look. Pro hot tip, they do take some time to acclimate, so do give it a little bit of patience. So I actually found when I brought it home, it kept dropping leaves for weeks and weeks on end. And actually not only was it trying to acclimate, but my problem was with lighting, which is what I'll go through next. When I first brought it home, it quickly became one of my favourite plants in my apartment, so I wanted to give it the best possible position that I could. But then I found that it was constantly dropping leaves all the time, every single week up to months, and I was getting really confused. Each leaf that was dropping was like a dagger to the heart because I was losing these beautifully variegated leaves. I was messaging my friends and I was like, what the heck is going on? But then quickly, one of my good friends reassessed the lighting conditions in my apartment and found that I actually wasn't giving it enough light, which is what I'm going to go through in my first topic. I watched it die for weeks and weeks on end until I fixed those lighting conditions, so do reassess the position in which you're placing your Tineke. Tinekes need and crave light. When you're looking it up on the internet and looking at the lighting conditions, the official guide does say bright indirect light. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I actually give my Tineke bright direct light for 1 to 2 hours a day during the morning. I'm sitting in a northeast facing apartment, which means that I get anywhere between from 8 to 12 hours of sunlight a day. But if you want to err on the safe side, do give it bright indirect light. But if you do want to promote a little bit more of reddish to pinkish leaves, do give it a little bit of direct light and you shall be right. I'm going to give you 3 separate tips across 3 different lighting conditions if you do want to vary the variegation on your Tineke. So as you can probably see, my Tineke is actually varying in different colours from bottom to the top, and I'll explain why. So I found that when my Tineke was sitting in medium light, it was starting to lose the variegation. And by that, The green was getting a bit deeper, the whites were disappearing, and also I was getting browning of the tips. Here's a close-up of the browning that was happening when I first was giving it medium light. And of course, I was getting a little bit upset over it. But then when I started moving it towards bright indirect light, I noticed the variegation was promoting again, and I was getting more of these off-white leaves, which I absolutely love. And then the browning of the tips started to disappear, which was great. I then started moving it to bright direct light, and note that it was only morning sun for about 1 to 2 hours, and it was promoting more of this reddish pink leaves that you can see. As I personally like to vary my variegation on the Tineke, I'll move it further and closer to the window depending on what color I would like. And finally, make sure you rotate your Tineke from time to time from the window. Naturally, you'll find that it will start leaning towards the light source, but then if you move it towards the other way, it'll balance out. In my case, I actually use stakes to promote it to go upwards, so it actually doesn't have a choice. But really, I still rotate it to ensure the other leaves on the other side are getting enough light. Let's get down to soil. That was so lame. So if you brought it home for the first time, I do recommend you probably leave it for some time to acclimate. I left my original Tineke for about 6 months before I repotted it, but then when I got the one from Flower Power, I was a little bit itchy to combine the two together. I personally use a 30% cacti, 30% orchid, 20% perlite, and 20% charcoal mix. There's no hard and fast rule, as long as there is a lot of aeration that allows water to flow through freely through the soil. Out of the 4 soil components that I listed, I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail on what is actually included in the bag. Cactus mix includes control release fertilizer, which distributes nutrients as plants need it for up to 6 months, a wetting agent, which ensures nutrients get to the root zone, trace elements, which include micronutrients vital to plant growth, calcium, which supports nutrient uptake and stronger plant cells, potassium, which promotes steady growth and protects from pests and disease, and coarse grit, which allows for drainage and aeration in the mix for optimal plant establishment and development. I found that the orchid mix also had all of the above, except for coarse grit, but replacing that with orchid bark, which provides ideal aeration for roots. My last 2 ingredients include perlite, which forms spaces around the soil to allow for aeration and for water to flow freely around the root system and preventing it from root rot, whereas my charcoal sweetens the soil and absorbs odors to prevent bacteria and pests. So I actually made a few mistakes when I was trying to combine these ratios for the first time. I actually got a nursery pot and scooped it and then counted 1, 2, 3, 4. That was like really dumb, so don't do that. I just basically after that learned that I could just mix everything together, and to proportion they were about roughly the ratios and what I wanted. Thank you so much guys for getting to the end of this video. If you liked what you saw today, please consider subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me. I'm going to try to upload videos once a week to a fortnight, so if you do want to see more content from me, turn on that bell notification so you don't miss a thing. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.